now to discuss the prevalence of human trafficking. We're now joined by Katie Modrau, Country Manager for A21 in South Africa. Thank you so much, Katie, for your time. I want to start with that very question that our reporter just posed. I mean, where is Joslin? That's what the community wants to know. So let's start then with this particular case. This prompted our discussion today. Joslin Smith has been missing for now 23 days. If this is indeed a case of human trafficking, what is the likelihood that she will be found?
That's a really big and heartbreaking question that you've asked there. Thanks for the discussion today. I think it depends on what type of trafficking, the charges are for trafficking. It's what she was potentially taken for or kidnapped for. Is it for muti? Is it for organs? Was it for the sex trade? The likelihood of her being found again, I think the stats tell us that the longer someone is missing, the likelihood of us being able to relocate them is low, but we can still hold hope. And I think that's what's important. I think what we need to highlight here is that human trafficking is real. This is not just one isolated case, but we see children going missing regularly, and the limited amount of children or the percentage of children that aren't recovered, you have to ask, where do they go? And I think that's the key thing. But let's hope she's still found and brought back safely.
And I mean, we know, of course, that your organization has been working on the ground in several parts of the country. Just how prevalent is human trafficking in South Africa, and specifically in the Western Cape, where Joslin was last seen in the care of her mother's boyfriend, I might add?
Human trafficking is rife. It is an organized crime, and this is something that I say often. It's not just isolated cases every now and again. It's rings that are operating and rings that are well organized on the ground. Human trafficking is a business, and when a business has low risk, then it's going to thrive within a country. And at the moment, prosecutions of trafficking cases are low. We hope to see that increase in the future, for sure. But when there is low risk of prosecution and sentencing, that you will find a crime will run rampant. We have a hotline that runs, and from all the calls that came through last year, 79.2% of those calls were related to human trafficking. So not false accusations, not false cases, but actual cases of trafficking. And 22.9% of those were relating to matters regarding children. So I can tell you for sure, human trafficking is happening in South Africa, and we do see the cases coming through in the Western Cape.
And just talking about, this particular case again, I mean, have you as A21 ever dealt with a case where parents or even a guardian of a child was implicated in their disappearance? I mean, what could be the motive in such cases? We are beginning, of course, to just get an understanding of the community that little Joslin comes from, and also what the community members are saying themselves in terms of some of the challenges that they have.
That is a great question to ask. I think there is a misconception that human trafficking is always abduction and kidnapping, and that's not the reality. From the stats that we saw on our hotline last year, 16.7% of victims were trafficked by a family member. 16.7. 14.3 were trafficked by a friend, so someone they knew and trusted. And 11.9% were recruited by a lover boy, so fake relationships. We see that often with teenagers and young adults as false relationships. Those percentages are people that they knew and trusted. Human trafficking, only small percentages are taken by abduction. Yes, it does happen, especially with, smaller children, but often family is implicated. And now if you're looking over at Saldanha and Vredenburg, what does it take for trafficking to thrive? We know that it's desperation. We know that it's often high risk factors for vulnerability, which includes limited, access to jobs, poverty, drug abuse, alcoholism, limited resources within a community, limited education about a type of crime, so trafficking. So we often see in the rural communities that, unfortunately, that there is desperation. And so this is what traffickers prey on. The recruiters will come to families and they will say, I'll look after your child, or let me use them for forced begging for the week, and I'll take care of your groceries, or I'll pay you X amount of money. We have recruiters coming and promising to look after children and school them. And, parents just want to believe this because they are desperate. They want to provide for their family. So we have to understand that trafficking thrives where there is vulnerability and desperation. And so I think that's just come to the forefront here in Saldanha. It's case in point in this situation. And we don't know what the motivation of the mother is. Obviously, still lots of investigations to go on, but We need to understand that that trafficking rings will thrive where there is desperation and vulnerability, and we need to be doing a lot of education within communities and supporting in these types of circumstances.
Adding to that vulnerability and that desperation from the parents or guardian or anyone, in fact, who knows the child, it could be a neighbor, it also probably speaks to just how easy it is, to take a child and to get away with it, even adults. When we look at the numbers globally of human trafficking, they're quite staggering. 49.6 million individuals are currently entrapped in human trafficking, as it were, and exploitation of their bodies and sometimes of labor. How can societies then take back the control into their hands and help end, the scourge that we are seeing? This is a form of modern day slavery, if it were, just given that it is often concealed in plain sight, most cases. What can societies do in this case?
I love that you're asking that question, because I think in situations like this, we can just get so shocked and overwhelmed. But there is something that we can do as community. Firstly, we can raise awareness. If you know about a crime, if you know how to recognize it, the likelihood of it being able to thrive under your watch is low and limited. We can see the passion in the community that's standing outside that courtroom. They're absolutely shocked that this has happened. I'm sure if we have passionate community members like this, talking about the types of trafficking and how to recognize the red flags, you're going to see a decrease in recruitment in certain communities. So that's really important to understand that. Secondly, from a point of view, is when we have children, it's not stranger danger. We have to understand that as parents, we need to be equipping our children to be able to thrive in physical society and in online society as well. So in the cyber spaces, children as young as 2, 3, we can train them. Safe and unsafe touch. Safe and unsafe secrets. No one should ever ask you to keep a secret from your parent or from a trusted individual. And then safe and unsafe people. These are things that we can teach our children. They are foundational tools that children can understand. This is okay and this is not okay. When someone touches me here or like this, it's not okay, and I can speak up about it. If we're not having these conversations with our children, how would we know? And I think it's important for us as parents to know that we need to equip our children, and we need to take back that sense of, I want to say, ownership and control over it, and not expect the school to do it or the church to do it or the social worker to do it, but that we're actually training our children and equipping them. And then I think when it comes to online, it's obviously not involved in this case, but teaching our children how to be safe online as well. False relationships. What does a healthy relationship look like? When someone's grooming you for a lover boy to, sell you for the sex trade, for example, what is a healthy relationship and what are red flags I should be looking out for? We can take control by raising the morality and raising the ethics in society within our own family to prevent these things from happening.